Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Sword Art Online 2 episode review. This one's going to be episode 22, Journey's End, and boy was this an emotional episode. Watching it just there for the first time in English dub, having previously seen it in sub, this is one of the few times I would honestly kind of just make a huge case for this is what a dub can do for a show. When it's really well done, it just adds so much more because you can understand the words and you're not just reading it and sort of getting the emotion from the Japanese voices. This was just I needed to get everything out of this episode. I needed to hear it in English, and it was really well done. And this is an episode like a couple nearly every arc of Sword Art Online, where it's one of those episodes where when I often hear people bash this show, dismiss it as just, oh, it's just one of those really popular animes, there's nothing, it's not sophisticated like this other stuff. I refer to episodes like this and certain other episodes as well and go no, this is dealing with some very important things. The concepts in this episode are more than just, typical shonen anime. This is heavy emotion character episode. And there is no action in this episode whatsoever. This is purely about two characters and their friendship and stuff like that, and obviously learning about Yuki and stuff like that. And it's just one of those ones where I can just never accept when people just really heavily dismiss this show, because this show is capable of doing things like this episode and being this emotional and interesting. But let's get into some specifics on this. So yeah, obviously we last episode ended off with Yuki logging out suddenly after being in tears because Asuna asked to join the Sleeping Knights, and just the gradual setup for the reason why the Sleeping Knights are splitting up is something serious. That their group they all have something that links them together that Asuna doesn't have. She's kind of an outsider, even though they need her help. And there's something that's more than just they have to do other things and they can't be together as a guild. And this is the episode where we get the explanation for that. But even still, we get CNA coming up to Asuna after Yuki hasn't come back into the game for a while, and she just says that we're really appreciative of what you've done, but for your sake, Yuki's sake, all of our sakes, please forget you never met us. And Asuna is just shocked by this because there's something that they're all not telling her, and they're just not quite at the moment where they can tell her. And it just leaves Asuna in this position where she's blaming herself. She thinks she has done something wrong and insulted them. And they're trying as hard as they can to tell her that their time with her has meant so much to them. But they don't want to get too close to her. And she is even beginning to see that they specifically are trying not to get close to her. And it's very notable. But after this, you get this kind of scene. Okay, Asuna then logs out, and you just see it's just a couple of seconds long. Her in the morning going out to school, and she just looks in on her parents and walks off. It's just a really interesting thing to just show that Asuna still has this issue with her parents, primarily her mother, and there's just no relationship there. They've been setting up the whole idea of you have to fight to get your point across, but it's still not quite there yet, because Asuna's lost a little bit of confidence because of what happened with Yuki, of course. But this whole episode, I think, serves a really important role in that Asuna and her mother relationship, because fundamentally the problem is that Asuna's mother doesn't get the virtual world. She doesn't get the games and stuff like that. She doesn't get why Asuna would want to play the game after being stuck in one for 2 years. Yet this whole arc is about basically Asuna's friendship with Yuki primarily, but the other Sleeping Knights as well, who she only knows in game. Like, she knows Kazuto now in and out of game, but it is important that she met him first of all in game. She fell in love with him in game, and it continued out of game. She knows these people completely through in game, and it's just as real of a relationship as if it was in the real world. And just seeing how, I suppose, how much more there is to her life in game, how different she is in game, and how she's kind of restricted in her personality almost around her parents because she's so tense around them because they don't understand. It's a really nice setup for Asuna as well. But yeah, them in school, uh, Silica and Lisbeth are asking like, "What's going on? Are you joining a guild?" And then she goes up to the top of the school and meets with Kazuto, who is still working on the kind of system to basically get Yui to experience the real world. And that's going to come back later. They've made a big point about talking about Kazuto's kind of what he wants to do, kind of bring the virtual world into the real world a little bit. Mechatronics, I think it's called. Maybe I'm completely making that up, but I think that's what it is. And he's obviously doing that, but that's not the focus of the scene. He has known what's up with Yuki for a while now. There's been this kind of slight mystery just around, like, what exactly did they say to each other? What exactly happened when Yuki and Kirito fought? And he clearly knows enough about her and has researched enough about this guild, this group, and what's going on to figure all of this out, and is kind of asks Asuna, is this really important? Do you have to know? Because he obviously knows, basically, he's put it together that she's terminally ill, she's using a Medicuboid, that's why she's in the game for so long, and stuff like that. And he's basically just asking her, are you sure you want to know the kind of sad story about what this is? And he just gives her the kind of details. It's a hospital, they're testing out this Medicuboid thing, and that's it. And she's just very happy to know that there's a chance for her to find out what's going on. And so from then, the whole rest of the episode takes place in the hospital. And I like the kind of just scene where she kind of walks into reception, and she doesn't really know who this person is, but just the little she's known of Yuki in game, she cares enough about her to go and find her, to understand what's going on. But at the same time, she only knows her by the name Yuki or Zekken from the game, and roughly what her age is. And is kind of just saying, now she's around this age, this, and this. But it all comes out when she talks about, I think she's using the Medicuboid, and I'm Asuna, and it all kind of comes together like, oh, you are the person that she's talking about. And then very quickly she meets the doctor, and you get the really sad backstory for Yuki. This idea that basically her whole family kind of got this really bad virus, and effectively the whole family kind of developed AIDS, and that's what Yuki's dealing with, and she's terminal. That's what her condition is. That she only has around 3 months left to live. Her parents have died in the last year or two, and her big sister, really important there, died only last year. And especially with what Yuki says later on, which I'll talk about, it's just a really kind of powerful backstory. This idea that she's suffered a lot of loss, and she's kind of the last one left in her family, and she doesn't have long left to live. And the explanation for what the Medicuboid actually is, it's this, basically it's a regular kind of atmosphere rig, but with like a lot more medical stuff built into the whole system, because they're going to be in there 24/7. That they use the fact that the atmosphere kind of numbs the nerves a bit and kind of blocks off a lot of the sensations for the body, so only the brain experiences most of the stuff, which is a really cool idea in itself. That this can for people who aren't terminal, can be this kind of way for people to experience visual things if they're blind, to experience audio stuff if they're deaf, and stuff like that. Because of the way the system works in everything going through the brain, that's a really cool kind of just medical technology idea that if video games and technology right around video games get advanced enough, it could be this really cool thing to give, people who suffer from all these things, these great experiences as well. And that's kind of ultimately the kind of hope that kind of comes out of the whole idea of this arc. And then it ultimately comes down to like the Metacuboid is best used for like giving people who are terminally ill and don't have a lot to do but just kind of live in pain for their last couple of weeks, a chance to experience something good through the virtual world. And that's what Yuki's been doing for the past 3 years. She's been in 24/7 dive, basically, more or less, for 3 years. And there's this really big moment when Asuna kind of goes like, that's 1 year more than us, than the SAO survivors who were only in there about 2 years. That is a big moment because that is seen as like the biggest virtual event ever. Like these people were kept alive in this game like this, but then you get this other idea like that. No, Yuki's been in the game longer. She effectively, her world is the virtual world. That has become her reality because there's very little for her in the real world. And that in itself is a kind of sad but interesting idea, just because of she can experience stuff that without this technology she wouldn't have been able to experience. And again, really great concepts being explored here, and just through this really interesting character, you're learning about this completely other kind of facet of what the virtual world is and what it can be for people. That it's a way for people to experience a world if the real world doesn't have anything for them and stuff like that. But yeah, and then you get Asuna and Yuki talking to each other. Asuna dives into the game as well, and they have this kind of reunion moment where like Asuna now knows Yuki is kind of free of the burden of kind of keeping it a secret from her, because Asuna has just accepted this now, that even though she knows Yuki doesn't have long left to live, she wants to be there around her for the last couple of months of her life and go on adventures and be around them. She is willing to take that on herself, and she doesn't want it to be this thing where they have to hold back around her. And it just kind of shows how strong this friendship is. It just developed very quickly, but how much Asuna wants this. And yeah, she just kind of, Yuki has kind of got to the stage now where she's just like, no, us clearing floor 27, that is the last big thing I want to remember. My time with you, what we just did there, that's what I want to be the last thing we remember. And Asuna's kind of just like, so that's it? Like, you're just breaking up now because you've done that last big thing. Is there nothing you ever want to do again in your life? And she just kind of casually says, not thinking it could ever be a possibility, I would have liked to have gone to school some more. And then Asuna suddenly remembers what Kirito's doing with the mechatronics, and is kind of like, that could actually happen. And she kind of gives Yuki some hope, and is kind of wondering, can I organize this? And you get the setup for why that whole idea of what Kirito's working on has been such a focus of the little bits of Kirito we've got this arc. And just really well done how they're kind of bringing all of this together. It honestly is one of the most well written arcs, I think, in Sword Art Online. There's just some really nice stuff being done here. It's not like they're not lingering on a lot of stuff like the GGO arc tended to do, like it repeated stuff a lot, but it was just, there's been just some, the pacing has been really good in terms of what they need to focus on. And it's just been really enjoyable to kind of rewatch. So yeah, only 2 episodes now to go. I'll try and get the 2 episodes out this week. Again, I still haven't got Avatar Legacy books, so I may have time this week for another review or two to finish off the arc. And then of course I will be doing my Mother Sario kind of arc review thing at the end as well. But yeah, that has been the review for episode 22, Journey's End. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the episode and the review. Other than that, thanks for watching, and bye.